Bitcoin core devs have executed a coin toss, which is essentially a cute cryptographic technique to determine the timeline in which Taproot will be activated. Now, Taproot is a large potential upgrade to the Bitcoin blockchain and is going to have, a number of different ramifications.
So, Taproot is part of a larger upgrade to the Bitcoin ecosystem, which we can get into a little bit later, but it just improves some of the privacy underlying tech around Bitcoin, doesn't do whole lot of privacy stuff like a Zcash. They kind of figured out how to update Bitcoin finally after 3 years of arguing about it. The consensus for upgrading Bitcoin is very, very difficult. The last time there was any major update to the Bitcoin blockchain was in 2017, but it kind of came down to some infighting. And the legacy of that has been confusion on how to update Bitcoin going forward. Another attempt to update Bitcoin with software that everybody wants. Everyone wants Taproot to be updated into Bitcoin, but nobody knows how to get it done.
3-month window within which miners can adopt it. And that will determine whether Taproot goes into effect or fails. And then everybody's back at the drawing board to try and hash this all out. That's the window that's being identified. But Naomi, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this too. I know you've been reading up a bit.
Sure. I'm probably not going to be a huge help. Let's be honest. Schnorr will be used to create aggregate signatures. It's like another way of doing 2 of 2 multi-sig. It's an interesting thing, and it is kind of cool they're doing this coin toss thing that I don't quite understand in order to figure out how to move things forward. You do what you got to do in the crypto space. It's difficult to get things done.
And I think maybe pulling it out, this is the hash. We try to reach out to you, our general viewers, and talk to you through some of these issues. This really underpins just how complex all these consensus mechanisms and cryptocurrencies can get, rather than just talking about Bitcoin as this one gigantic thing. There's a ton of developers that are working around the world trying to push this thing forward in a decentralized way. And it requires, some conflict sometimes as well. So, while a lot of people might just be tracking number go up, number go down, there are people working on the dev level every day that are really trying to push this actual mission forward. So, that's the top level note, but this is how nitty gritty it can get when you're diving deep into the tech like we do here at CoinDesk.
Ben, on that note, I don't know if you'll have an answer to this, but if we're just talking to our everyday audience, how does this affect them, if it does at all?
So it's going to improve the end user's experience potentially if they're really interacting with Bitcoin directly. It's going to make smart contracts more efficient, and it is going to increase some privacy aspects of it. So the overall user experience, while this is certainly a boon for developers working under the hood, it's going to make their experience a little bit better. And it's just making this system, not only more secure, but potentially more scalable, more efficient. And these are all things that are going to have to be built out as Bitcoin, as its own sort of transaction network, works to compete with, Swift or something like this, or some of the traditional financial models. So I think that's maybe the top level takeaway.
I'm Natalie Brunell for Bitcoin Magazine, and we are talking the highly anticipated Taproot. Bitcoin is about to undergo a major upgrade to its protocol, Taproot, setting the stage for more functionality on the Bitcoin network. Okay, so what is Taproot? It is a soft fork upgrade to the Bitcoin protocol, and it's not just a single update. It actually bundles a set of important improvements known as Bitcoin Improvement Protocols, or BIPs. A lot of people are excited about Taproot because it aims to make transactions cheaper, more efficient, and more private. It can also unlock the potential of smart contracts on Bitcoin, because right now smart contracts increase transaction fees and the data size that needs to be processed. That might have all sounded like word salad, but what you really need to know about Schnorr is that multiple transactions with a Bitcoin wallet don't need to show up separately. They can be hashed together and assigned a unique key. This is going to be extremely helpful in streamlining applications where multiple parties are transacting with one wallet. Taproot will also help reduce costs. The upgrade utilizes a system called the Merkleized Alternative Script Trees, or MAST. And one last note on privacy. Taproot also aims to make it more difficult to track transactions based on public wallet addresses. With the upgrade, you can still see what transactions have happened, but it won't be as easy to see who is sending Bitcoin and to where. All right, Jimmy, thanks so much for joining me. How excited are you about this Taproot upgrade?
Pretty excited, but let's not get our hopes up that it's going to all be on the network at immediately the same time. A lot of wallet providers have yet to integrate Taproot, so it's going to take a little bit of time. The benefits will be years out from now, not like completely immediately. Although there are certain things that you'll be able to see very quickly.
Okay, so people who are familiar with the space, they remember maybe the last upgrade, which was SegWit in 2017. How did we get to this point right now? Can you provide a little bit of history and context?
So Greg Maxwell actually wrote to the mailing list a while back, I think shortly after he quit Blockstream, about his proposal Taproot, and then he followed it up like the next day with Graftroot. But this idea that you can have a single key and multiple keys like sort of combined. Right now we have two different types of addresses for single key locked and multi-sig. What Taproot does is it puts it all under one sort of type of address, so you get more privacy as far as whether it's single key locked or multi-key locked.
Now, I'm not the most technical person, but everything that I'm reading about Taproot, it indicates that this would make things cheaper, more efficient, and essentially faster and offer more privacy. So can you talk to a couple of those points? How does Taproot make things first more private on the blockchain?
Yeah, so part of it is what I just told you about how right now you have pay to witness script hash and pay to witness pub key hash. And you can tell the difference by looking at how long the addresses are. So if it's an especially long Bec32 address, those are multi-sig or something more interesting than a Bec32 address that's shorter. Those are single key lock. So you can tell right away almost by looking at the address whether or not it's single sig or multi-sig. And we used to have that back in pre-SegWit with the addresses that start with a 1 versus the addresses that start with a 3. The ones that start with a 1 are single key locked, the other ones are 3. Taproot gets rid of this distinction basically by having both of them combined to one single type of address. You may have 3 different conditions, right? 2 of 3, or after a time lock, this person, or after an additional time lock, this person. And you can have all 3 conditions, and you're really only spending out of one of them, but you're forced to reveal the entire thing. With Taproot, you only reveal the thing that you're spending with, and the other 2 sort of like stay there, and that way you don't reveal any information. So it gives you additional privacy in that regard as well.
Dumb this down for someone who's watching who doesn't even understand, what a multi-sig is or how these are sort of like fingerprints on the network. Like dumb this down to, 5th grade level.
I would say that no one can tell what kind of lock you have on your house, something like that. And you can have lots of different types of locks. And it used to be that one type of lock was very easy to identify and another type of lock was very hard to identify. Now they're both like one type of lock. So it's hard to tell, basically.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. How about cheaper? Why does this make transactions cheaper? I know a lot of people are concerned with just fees on the actual blockchain.
Yeah. So essentially what it comes down to is that it uses less bytes in certain kinds of cases. Right now for multi-sig, it does use a lot of bytes because if you're doing like 3 of 5 multi-sig or something like that, you have to have 3 signatures and 5 public keys that are revealed when at the time of spend. We take some of that away by optimizing on the signature format. So instead of 71 bytes, it goes down to 64 bytes. Instead of 33 bytes, we go down to 32 bytes. So that definitely, adds little bits here and there and does make it a little bit cheaper because you're taking up less space on the blockchain. Therefore, you can pay cheaper fees.
Awesome. Well, and just to start to wrap up, how difficult is it to have one of these upgrades be accepted by a consensus of the miners? Is it easy?
Like it was much easier than last time, let's just say that. But it wasn't, it takes a lot of work from a lot of different people, and just getting it to the point where miners can signal readiness and so on. It is a tremendous amount of work.